go, kids! Damn!
Welcome, Walt Disney World fans, to another episode of the Notcast, presented by Not Club 33. Disney intellectual property. You see it all across the Walt Disney World campus and all Disney parks, for that sake. Does Disney really need this in order to succeed inside the parks? We'll get into that in just a second. My name is Steve Rhodes. Today with me I have Becky Wells.
Hey.
Pat Neistat is here.
Sup?
And say hello to the Disney cynic, Mr. Bobby Burchins.
Free Figment.
Okay, let's start there. Figment, for the uninitiated, was an original character brought up by Disney Imagineering for Epcot when it launched way back in 1982, over 40 years ago. There was not a character that existed outside of Walt Disney World. It was just launched for an attraction, which is they've pretty much killed off. It still exists, but it sucks. Can Disney do that again? Can they create something inside the park without having it pre-existing outside in a movie or a cartoon show or whatever? I mean, they did it with Disneyland. They did it with Disney World with things like Space Mountain and the Jungle Cruise. Can they do that again from the ground up in this day and age? Pat, let's start with you here. What's your opinion? Is this a possibility that they can do, or do they really need that corporate synergy?
I think they could do it. I think the question for me is, do they want to do it? And the answer to that is no. Look at anything new into the park as all IP, like based on a movie that they've created, and they want that synergy. They want to be able to promote it at all levels. You know, they want to Disney Plus. They want it in the parks. They want it in the stores, merch. You know, so I just don't see them going that route because I don't know. Figment, I don't know. I don't know. To me, I'm going to say something very controversial. I think Figment sucks as a character. So
That's fine.
The new Figment sucks for sure.
I don't even know what the hell it is. Is it a dinosaur or a dragon?
It's a figment of your imagination. Literally.
Fucking dumb is what it is. Go ahead.
That's hater talk, son.
Oh shit.
Figment's gangster. I don't. Never mind. Anyway, listen. I completely disagree on the premise that Disney has to. In fact, I think it's proven time and time again that you can take things from inside the park and turn them into movies or Disney Plus specials or whatever the hell you want to call it. I think that it's a shame that they are limiting their Imagineers to only this little one box, and they're confining them inside of that, and saying you can only play around in here. You can't think outside of out of this box. Because take a look at something like Lightyear or the new Buzz Lightyear movie.
Yeah.
That could have been any other character for any other movie if you had just changed like a couple of different things, and it would have been a perfectly fine movie. But the fact that they tied it back to something that was already based upon an intellectual property, actually, I think kind of hurt the box office figures because people were questioning, well, what the hell is this? Why isn't Tim Allen playing Buzz Lightyear at this point? You know, there was just a lot of things that did not make sense about that movie. And guess what? Now you can't tie Chris Evans into the parks because the movie failed. So to me, it would make sense to have success after success after success. It doesn't matter whether it's coming from an attraction or coming from a movie. It's good to have a healthy mix of both. As a kid, I preferred to have my own little imagination about all the different attractions, particularly at Epcot. And over at Hollywood Studios, it was great to have that intellectual property boom right there and have it all laid out for me. But at Epcot in particular, it was great to have my own imagination and be able to expand upon whatever idea they were giving me at each one of these pavilions. Now, nobody gets to do that anymore because it's all boxed in within one little story. And that's a shame.
Don't you think that has something to do with competition, though? Because when Disney World started in Orlando, obviously it was the only show in town besides, your carnival. Later, Universal came on, but it was not a strong offering.
Dino World.
Yeah. But I mean, when Disney World launched, it was the only show in town, and Universal Studios showed up later. But its build out was not. It was basically a glorified Six Flags at the time, and it slowly became into what it is now with Harry Potter. If Disney builds something from the ground up as far as an attraction is concerned, it's only going to be judged on the merit of said attraction. And when you're talking about thrill rides and things like that, Disney is not competing in that space. You can travel to places like Cedar Point or Universal or any other of these coaster parks to go get your thrill ride attraction. Disney's there because they're the only ones that have the IP. And I think that's why they're scared to do something like start an attraction from the ground up, because it's only going to get judged on the attraction alone, where if you're just judging attraction for attraction, they're not going to win. But I can suck you into the park if I've got a hit in the box office, and I can bring that into the park and get something you in my park as, to me, average Joe.
If that's the case, then the only thing that they have really to lay back on is Marvel, because that's the biggest success from the studio perspective.
Mickey Mouse,
like their animation and their Pixar.
I don't know.
I mean,
what about Encanto? Mickey Mouse. Encanto was an original idea. They created a great story. They created a great story. We went on to Disney Plus, and it was one of the most viewed streaming movies ever. And they made a great story.
Well, you look at social media.
Got a lot of subscribers from it.
You look at the buzz. Everybody was singing, "Don't Talk About Bruno" on every social media platform, from kids to adults. That kind of thing gets people, when you say, "Oh, now we have this Encanto ride," or this Encanto attraction even in our park, and you start something like that, then people are like, "Oh crap, I want to go to see that because I really like this movie."
Yeah.
I think that's the corporate aspect from it. But Becky, do you think that, like, do you agree more with Bobby's point that they could do something like this, or are you more of on the camp where they probably shouldn't?
It's tricky. I think that they do still make things inside. Anything new that they make, there's backstory. There's backstory on all of it. They don't talk about all of it, but if you do the digging to find the little details, that's where I know it's corny, the real magic of Disney is really in the little details that no one's noticing. And that's why I've always enjoyed the parks. It's like, I seek out the stuff that nobody's looking for or noticing, because you walk right past it. So in a way, they branch off no matter what they're putting in parks. There is stuff that isn't a direct tie-in on anything that's been in a movie or been out or whatever. But I don't want that to all be pulled back out and be promoted. I don't want something new to be created and then everybody loves it, because that's when I start to hate it. Like, I enjoy the stuff that nobody else catches onto. So could they make something new? Yes, they could. I feel bad if they are truly, boxed in and can't I guarantee Imagineering has a billion ideas a year that are just sort of like, it's awesome, back pocket. It's never seen. Right. But like, to say that it's, I agree business wise. Yes, it's smart to, pull the things that kids and even adults are staring at on screens all day long and pop it in a park. Yeah, that's how you get people there. You got Super Mario Land, or whatever it's called, coming to Universal. That's going to bring people there. Is it because the ride's going to be stellar? Absolutely fucking not.
Well,
but it's
to Bobby's.
I mean, it might.
To Bobby's point,
be. Who knows? But
I mean, when you go the route that they seem to be headed with the intellectual property stuff, all coming from Disney, Pixar, Marvel, Star Wars, and all that stuff, all the park attractions coming from that realm, from the screen, essentially, you're going to be just reskinning everything for every 20 years because it's what's popular, and you're never going to have anything new from the ground up. But then again, if you're looking at it and you're Bob Chapek, you got to look at it like, well, who the hell's going to come here to ride this ride? Because it has no
How many people are going to ride Figment?
How many people went to ride Pirates of the Caribbean before Johnny Depp got involved, though? How many people ride Space Mountain on a daily basis?
Right.
Make a
But,
good
you know,
ride and people will ride it. I
but
can assure
that's
you.
Yeah.
but that's pre-competition, right? So that goes back to my original point. Pirates of the Caribbean, you can't make that in 2022 and be successful. That's a shit ride that nobody's going to go sit on a boat ride.
Tokyo
It's
Disney
not going to
Sea.
be successful. You could not launch that today. It exists, and it's when if you sit on that boat with kids that are 21 years old. They care about the movie Pirates of the Caribbean. They're not enthralled with that ride like we are because we rode it as kids and we love the bomb, the cannonball shooting and all that crap. They're just going, oh crap, there's the Johnny Depp guy. There's the Johnny Depp character. And they don't give a crap about the nostalgia factor. That's a shit ride to them. And I see
I
what they're
literally
saying.
rode that ride at 24 without ever having been there before, and it was before the movies, and I loved it. So
You're a Disney nut, though. I mean, I'm talking about
That was
regular.
the first time
been
she
there before
went.
that. That was the
But
first time I'd ever gone.
There's
And
clearly
that was one of the
something
first
wrong with
rides we
all of
wore.
us, is what I'm saying. and
That's
it
not
doesn't work
debated
that,
here. I'm just saying.
it doesn't
I'm
work that
debunking
way
your-
in real life when you actually go and watch first timers that are not at all
At the same time,
inclined
though,
for this.
Steve,
You know?
who spends the money to continue to go to all these places? It's not
All
the
of us.
21-year-old
Yeah.
who's going there for the first time and Captain Jack Sparrow, Amber Heard shit in the bed, whatever.
Oh,
What?
God.
Sorry, I had to get that in there. How could we not? But at the same time, though, like, we're the ones who are paying for the tickets and the resorts and the food and all of that stuff because we're in our mid-30s or above. So fuck the 21-year-olds at this point. When they start to pay the bills, then they can have more of an opinion.
And
when
that
it comes down to
it,
it, Disney is kid centric, right? They're kid
Are
centric,
they?
and yes, the family that comes once every 5 years or once every 10 years, those people are spending a shit ton of money.
because they want
A
to take their
shit ton
kids.
of money. The people like you who go all the time and you're a local, you're not spending that much money. The APs aren't spending a lot of money. It's the people that make it once in a lifetime trips or once every 5 year. Those are the people who are spending money, and they want to see the shit that they see on their TV.
The reason why I don't spend as much money as I possibly could at Disney is because they continue to offer crap, particularly on the dining side and on the souvenir side, if I'm being honest with you, because they don't mix anything up. The closest thing that they have to mixing it up, ironically, is Orange Bird, another piece of intellectual property that was kind of brought up this whole discussion. It's a Disney IP that does not exist on film. And yet it is one of the most popular pieces of merchandise that you can buy at Disney.
I mean, it does
Or
exist in
Disney
film, but it's from the
Floridians,
70s.
though.
Yeah.
It
exists
was
on
for
film, but
it's
just from the
orange
70s.
growers, not like
Yeah.
not like the mass general public. It's for a very specific group of people, and yet all of a sudden, this is the thing that sells out more than any other type of merch.
But you're talking about selling popcorn buckets versus selling a whole Disney vacation. When you set foot on property, Bobby, you might spend a couple $100s. What Pat's talking about is these people coming and spending thousands and thousands of dollars in one
And their
setting.
spend per day is more.
Yeah, it's just going to be higher than yours or even mine. Yeah, it's just
they're getting merch. Their kids are getting
vastly
merch.
different. Your expenditure's lower, so they're gonna attack the people that are coming down and spending the bigger money, and we're all stuck living with that. Unfortunately, I don't disagree with what you're saying. I just don't know that Disney could ever look at it and say, "Hey, look, we're going to build this attraction from the ground up," because if they do that, now they're competing with Six Flags and Universals for
But they're not going
thrill.
to. They're not going to go build a wizard land, and just have it generic wizards walking around. I just don't see that ever happening.
No,
Right.
but I do see like something like Tomorrowland being a possibility because it's there. Like clearly the concept works, and there's not there's not a Tomorrowland International Speedway series on Disney Plus yet. You know what I mean?
No,
there's not an Astro
don't.
Orbiter movie
We don't
in pre-production.
I agree.
So for all of these attractions that are still out there and are still part of Disney World and really a part of anybody's vacation at this point, there's a lot out there that you don't need to. Big Thunder Mountain Railroad is another one.
Yeah.
To Becky's point, it's got a shit ton of details in the queue. There's a whole
Yeah.
backstory about it being like like some sort of bargain between like a mining company and a bunch of ghosts and shit. It's a weird arrangement. If you go in and look at the details of it, there's no fucking movie based on that though. Everybody loves that attraction, especially people with kidney stones.
If you think about it though, when you brought up like Tomorrowland Speedway, some of these attractions that didn't have an IP attached were because they were specifically sponsored by a company to make them be able to exist. That's what Walt did, was go around and get companies, large companies, and all of Tomorrowland was that. It wasn't IP that was Disney's. It was everyone else's money making it and being advertising. That's exactly how it all.
What, this business model doesn't work anymore?
I'm not saying it doesn't. I'm just saying, like, we're talking about coming up with original ideas that don't have a tie into something else, but they all did. Almost every single thing.
It was a walking advertising. Yeah, it was a walking advertising.
It was like Walt had no money. Everybody else paid for Disneyland.
I'm not disagreeing to the fact that they could do it. I just don't think they want to do it.
I think they could and they should, because one begets the other. At some point, you're going to turn the Pirates of the Caribbean into a film franchise. But that film franchise doesn't exist.
It doesn't matter to me, really.
But how long? But how long does that take to get your return on investment?
I don't really care.
That's the issue. Where I can make this movie and I'm going to get eyes on it immediately, and then I can throw it in the park later down the road, and people are happy. Or the other way around, I can do this major capital expenditure, building a ride from the ground up and doing all that development, and then nobody likes the ride. I can't put that on the screen because nobody gives a shit. And I just
Expedition
have this.
Everest.
Yeah.
Expedition Everest versus Avatar. Which one is more popular? Which one has the longer wait times?
Avatar.
I would say Avatar does, yeah.
By far.
Okay. And would you say that they're the better attraction, or would you say that
I like
Expedition
it better?
Everest?
The Pandora is vastly better than Expedition Everest. It's a one-off. Expedition Everest is a one-off, and the
detail in Pandora is incredible.
Yeah, it's not even close. Yeah.
The detail in Everest of Expedition Everest.
It is. But
it's fantastic. I'm not saying it isn't. I'm just saying
I think Pandora's their best land. Like as far as
when
detail
you're comparing,
goes.
That's a whole entire land that they built versus a ride. I mean, it's not really a fair comparison because you're talking about a one-off ride versus an entire land that's built to look like a movie, and they really succeeded doing it.
Still think that Kilimanjaro Safaris is the long-term solution over at some versus that of bringing in a Pandora. To me, that's if we're going to start comparing apples and oranges in that way, I honestly think that the non-intellectual property based attractions are the way to go, because then they turn that opportunity that you saw in the parks into something that you can see on screen later and develop into something even bigger. It starts smaller and goes outward, as opposed to like bringing it down into like a funnel. There's a
small track record of that.
Yeah,
you got Pirates of the Caribbean. That's highly successful. What else?
They did the Jungle Cruise. They did Haunted Mansion.
Yeah,
Haunted Mansion was
Jungle
terrible.
Cruise is solid, and Haunted Mansion didn't really get much fanfare. It's kind of hit and miss to go the other way around. And what Disney's looking at, it's like we're a company that is a media company first, and the parks are kind of secondary to them.
But how many? The parks
and a lot of those coexisted. They, set some of those original rides and themes of areas to be coming out at the same time that their movie was coming out. That was part of the whole plan. But they can't keep up with that. They can't do that anymore. And then there's also not the space for it. There's not the footprint for it. Anyway, and obviously, it's taken 17 years to build Tron for the second time, and so
right.
They've been probably fucking working on it since Tron was out in 1962 or whatever shit. Like they tried to release that at the same time. I'm just saying, like it's
didn't quite make it right.
Yeah, it's just a little bit of a delay. Concrete or
if they made a non-IP ride attraction, I'd go on it. Doesn't really matter to me. I'm just thinking about how they think as a company. That's kind of my perspective.
Yeah, and I'm thinking of it as a
this
consumer.
conversation.
Every single one of the attractions that I enjoy the most are the ones that don't have a fucking movie attached to it. Every single one of them. Like
Right,
I said,
but you're
Space
not the
Mountain,
average
Expedition Everest, all these other attractions that are out there. They're so much better than the ones that have a
Your
movie
favorite,
attached to it.
your favorite ride is what?
Mission Space or Tower of
That's
Terror,
a lie.
actually.
Thank
Tower
you.
of
All right,
Terror.
there we go. It was Tower of Terror, which is IP.
Not theirs.
It's not,
not
but what I'm
Disney's.
saying, but it's not an original. It's not an original from the ground up.
It is
thing.
an original. It is an original.
What is the
Twilight Zone?
What
story.
is, in your opinion, not your favorite ride, but the best attraction at Walt Disney World?
In terms of the newest attractions that are out
the
there?
best
No, just
attraction,
your best.
in
Yeah,
your
the best.
opinion, not your favorite, but the best.
It's got to be Rise, but that doesn't mean that it can't. It had to
What's
be
the
Star
second
Wars
best?
that did it.
Yeah.
Tower of Terror, but again, that's an original story.
Well,
It's an original
third
story.
best.
It's not
It's
a
the third
part of the
best.
Twilight Zone. Space Mountain,
yeah.
Thunder Mountain,
What about Cosmic Rewind? Where's that fall?
probably somewhere in the 9 or 10 range.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, it's a great attraction. Don't get me wrong. It just doesn't have 20 years of enjoyment.
But you have to realize, they're not making the park to sell to Bobby. They're making the park to sell to average
aware.
Joe
He
and
wants
Jane
to get off
consumer.
his lawn,
Yeah.
though. That's
Yeah. So, and
More so than ever.
For us here, clearly we will probably go and ride whatever they put out, and that's the issue, and that's why they don't want to cater to us, because we're not the ones that are going to spend the most amount of money.
We going
and that's why you
anyways.
have what you have. We're going to go anyway.
God forbid that we be catered to as the people who are spending the money.
You're not spending as much as the people that are going every once in a
Start
while.
spending more
There's
money, Bobby.
Way more of them than there are.
Make
of us,
something
so.
that's worth me spending money on, and I'll fucking do it. That's my point. Is they're not anymore. It's
But they
just
don't
not-
need your money because they have the regular park guests.
Here's
That's
the thing: is you pay for an annual
Yeah.
pass, right?
Mhm.
But you don't eat every meal in the park, and you don't
Because the
buy
food sucks.
merch every day that you're in
You
the
wouldn't
park.
though. You're going to
No,
go
I
home. You'd be
absolutely-
stupid
no.
to do that.
100%.
And not all their food
absolutely
sucks.
would.
Not all the food sucks.
They have great food. Yeah.
100%.
There's a lot of really good food in the park.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I
yeah,
love Disney food.
Okay. Let them talk over me again. Ready? If they had a good restaurant inside the parks, then I would absolutely eat there. But instead, I have to make it a trek over to a resort and get a reservation, and it's a barrier to entry for me to get into half of their good restaurants. I would absolutely go to a theme park restaurant if it was any good. But you tell me that Tony's Town Square
No,
is
that's
any
not
good.
good.
It's terrible. It's absolutely god awful. There's like hardly any good dining inside of a theme park. So that's why I don't spend money inside of there. Plus, on top of that, no, I don't need every goddamn plush toy that comes
Yeah,
out.
but it's not just the parks that people are spending money at. It's just not inside the park. It's at the resort.
Yeah, and I would stay at resorts more often, like for like little weekend getaways and stuff like that, because I can go down when there's a weekend reservation.
Yeah, but
like I would do these things more often if they weren't like.
So when you stay at the resort, do you eat all 3 meals at the resort or
no?
Yeah.
No, I don't it's because their food sucks. I would spend money at their. I Uber Eats half the time.
I think that's a different discussion. I mean, you know what? Let's table that, and we will make a show on Disney food down the road. Apparently, Bobby has a gripe with Disney food.
Oh, I do.
For somebody that gets chicken every meal, this will be a good show, and we will record that for you guys and get that on air here on this very YouTube channel. In the meantime, if you enjoyed what you watched today, smack a like on this. It really helps YouTube figure out that, hey, more people should see the video because you liked it. Shows it to more people just like yourself. Consider subscribing. It is free to do so, and it really helps out our channel. And if you're a subscriber, think about hitting that notification icon. It will tell you when we upload these videos, which is typically 4 p.m. Magic Kingdom time on Fridays. For everybody here on the Notcast, have a great day.